Emma had always believed her life would unfold quietly, like the gentle pages of a book read slowly on a Sunday afternoon. But everything changed the moment she stepped onto the old train station platform, where the sun dipped low behind the dusty horizon, casting a soft golden glow on the tracks that hummed with distant memories. And as she lifted her suitcase, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in her chest, she saw him, Liam, the man she once loved beyond reason, now standing only a few steps away, older, more tired, but with the same familiar way of looking at her as if she were the only person in the world. And in that moment, all her carefully built walls trembled because she remembered the nights they spent talking about dreams, the promises whispered under falling stars, and the painful days she walked away from everything they could have been. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she was too afraid of loving him too much. Liam, who had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in his mind, yet never expected it to truly happen, took a slow breath as he stepped closer, noticing how Emma's hands trembled slightly and how her eyes carried stories he wished he could still understand. And he said her name the way he used to. Soft, careful, almost reverent, causing a rush of memories to crash through both of them. And as commuters passed by, indifferent to the fragile reunion unfolding between two hearts that once beat in perfect rhythm, Emma forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, asking him how he'd been after all those years. But the truth hovered between them like an unspoken confession, that neither of them had truly moved on, that the life they lived separately, it was merely a shadow of the life they dreamed of together. And Liam admitted he still thought about her, about the letters she left behind, about the dreams they abandoned, while Emma, gripping the handle of her suitcase like an anchor, whispered that she never expected to see him again and wasn't sure whether the universe was being cruel or kind by bringing him back into her life now. As they walked through the small-town streets that held ghosts of their younger selves, Emma and Liam moved slowly, almost cautiously, as if afraid that rushing would break the fragile thread reconnecting them. And they passed the bakery where they once shared cheap pastries on cold mornings, the park bench where Liam carved their initials into the wood, and the quiet riverbank where they once argued about the future, each step stirring emotions buried for years. And Emma found herself laughing at one of Liam's old jokes, despite the ache beneath her ribs, while Liam kept stealing glances at her, memorizing the changes in her face and the way she still tugged at her sleeve when she felt nervous. And though the silence between their words grew heavy, neither wanted the moment to end, because for the first time in a long time, they felt like themselves again, like two souls who once promised to grow old side by side, but instead grew apart across cities, years, and countless regrets. Eventually, they reached the quiet overlook where the town stretched out beneath them, the sky painted in hues of lavender and fading gold, and Emma felt the weight of the secret she carried for years press painfully against her heart. The secret of the night she left, the truth Liam never knew, that she didn't walk away because she stopped loving him, but because she discovered she had a heart condition that doctors warned could change her life entirely. And she didn't want to burden him with fear, with hospital rooms, with the possibility of losing her too soon. So she chose the cruelest mercy and left without explanation, hoping he would forget her and find someone capable of giving him a full life. But instead, she watched him from afar, year after year, never finding the courage to tell him that the goodbye he never understood was her desperate attempt to protect him from the pain she couldn't bear to share. And now, standing beside him again, she felt the truth claw its way to the surface, but the words tangled in her throat because she feared that revealing it now might break him all over again. Liam stood quietly beside her, feeling something heavy in her silence, something deeper than nostalgia. And as he looked at her with the tenderness she wanted so badly to forget, he confessed that her disappearance shattered him in ways he never admitted to anyone, that he spent years searching for reasons, blaming himself, rewriting their memories to find clues, until eventually he buried the hurt beneath work, routine, and the lie that he didn't need love anymore. But the truth was that every person he met after her was measured against her smile, her warmth, her quiet bravery, and none of them ever came close. And he admitted that he didn't fall out of love with her, not then, not ever, and that seeing her again felt like life was giving him one last chance to ask the question that had haunted him for over a decade: why she left him without a word, without a goodbye, without letting him fight for her. And Emma felt her breath break as she realized how deeply her choice had scarred him. Overwhelmed by the weight of Liam's confession, Emma finally let the truth spill out in one trembling breath, telling him about the diagnosis, about the doctors, about the fear that consumed her at the time, and how she convinced herself that disappearing was the only way to spare him from loving someone who might not have a future. And Liam, stunned and heartbroken, felt his world tilt as he processed the pain she had carried alone, realizing that the wound he nursed for years was born from her attempt to protect him. And he reached for her hand with a gentleness that made her tears fall faster, telling her he would have chosen her through sickness, through fear, through anything, because loving her had never been a burden. It was the best part of his life. And Emma, sobbing quietly, whispered that she didn't know how to let someone love her when she felt so fragile. But Liam held her hand tighter, telling her that fragility wasn't weakness, and that he would have stood by her no matter how dark the days became. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in soft twilight, Emma and Liam stood at the edge of a choice that could alter the rest of their lives. And Emma confessed that although her condition had stabilized over the years, the fear of losing everything again still lurked deep within her. But Liam, with calm determination, told her that life's uncertainty was the very reason they shouldn't waste another moment apart. And he asked her, not with pressure but with hope, if she would be willing to try again, to rebuild something new from the ashes of what they lost. And Emma, heart pounding with the old familiar ache, realized that despite the years, despite the pain, despite the fear, she still loved him with the same intensity as before. And standing there with the wind brushing gently through her hair, she whispered yes, not as a promise of perfection, but as an act of courage, choosing love over fear, choosing him over solitude, choosing the future they once dreamed of but never thought they'd get back. Hand in hand, they walked back toward the town, the night settling around them like a soft blanket, and though neither spoke much, the silence was no longer heavy with regret, but warm with possibility, and Emma felt something unfamiliar blooming inside her, a sense of hope she thought had died long ago, while Liam kept brushing his thumb gently over her hand as if reassuring himself she was real. And as they reached the station where everything began, Emma realized that sometimes love doesn't come loudly or dramatically. Sometimes it returns quietly, in a moment you never expected, offering a second chance you never dared to hope for. And with a small, fragile smile, she whispered that she was ready to try, ready to stay, ready to let her quiet heart finally speak.